we put a lot of armour on to protect ourselves through times like this, but at the end of the day, some bullets still get through. You know, I'd be lying to say it didn't hurt. The family suffer more than anyone, and it's not just your immediate, it's not just my wife Lee and Mark, Jamie, Michaela, my kids, but it's also your extended family, your cousins, everyone that sort of has loved and supported you for a long time. What appeared to be a little bit of an indecision and lack of support from the organisation was probably the part that was the hardest to deal with.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
What a pleasure this is. His book is out. There it is. Okay, you see it? Ian Foster, Leading Under Pressure. And I know you've done a fair few interviews about this, so I'm going to try and gear it towards maybe a couple of questions that haven't been asked, but there's obviously a lot to cover. First and foremost, welcome back, my man.
Good to be back, Marty. Good talking to you as always, and I'm enjoying my time in New Zealand after a long season in Japan.
Okay, so, you know, rule number one, and, you know, I don't know whether it's my place to tell you, mate, but the very first line in your book, it was never my intention to write a book. So, what? What a great way to start that is.
Well, it's, to be fair, the other name on the book is obviously Gregor Paul, who helped write it. He did all the clever stuff, but that first chapter was really for me to do, so it's just written in my words. My apologies if it's not right, but it's I just tried to be as frank as I could.
So, just quickly, briefly, why then? If it wasn't your intention to write a book, why write a book?
Well, look, I didn't finish the All Black stint after that World Cup in France, come home and have any plans to write a book. It was never, I've often shared, you know, you never think your life's going to be that interesting or your role's that interesting that it's worthy of it. But it's, I just think the reaction of the country to that World Cup, you know, we went through a whole lot of emotions, but the country, I think, sort of saw a story unfold the last couple of years of that All Black reign. And I think the reaction to it is they respected the journey the team had gone on, and I really wanted to reflect the work that particularly my management team and the leaders of players, all the pressure they had to go through those 3 or 4 years, and I felt it was more, I just wanted to tell that story for them more than anything.
One thing I've noticed about reading it is that, you know, you're very either careful or you aren't this as a person, and you can explain not to be judgmental, not to actually hack at anyone, not to, you know, really carp anyone or anything like that. As you say, I mean, when you read it, it is your words and you're telling it how you saw it. But was that an intention, not to say, right, I'm going to start scoring some points back here?
Yeah, it was never my intention. It's not kind of who I think I was as an All Black coach, and I didn't want to become that person when I finished being an All Black coach. So, you know, I found that hard at times, Marty, to be honest, because there's things that happened, some of them I was quite strongly opposed to, and there was a lot of pressure on at certain points and, you know, everyone behaved in their own way based on what they thought was right and wrong. But for me, the book was about this team, the scenarios and obstacles that were placed in front of us, some of which we made ourselves, you know, and we had to own up to that. But to talk about how we responded to things. And, you know, life isn't always fair and doesn't always go the way you want, and people around you don't always make decisions that you agree with, but we still have to try to get a job done. And, you know, the fact that we didn't quite get it done is disappointing, but the fact that we got so close to getting it done is also something I'm immensely proud of that group for.
Let's just go straight to 2022. And, you know, Ireland, and it was, 5 losses and 6, I think, before you went to South Africa. Then you go to lose the first test, go to Joburg. Is there an axe hanging over your head? The CEO's there. He's going to do a press conference. All of this. You know, just as personally, how do you get through all of that? We all have adversity in our lives, but very few people have adversity where it's not just a microscope is on you, but national attention is on you, international attention is on you. Everyone's talking about. How do you cope through that as a person? How does your marriage cope through that? in your own personal relationships? Because one of the great things I really love and admire about you, and I've said this to you before, is your dignity and your ability to weather that kind of stuff. And I just think it's a lesson for, well, I take lessons out of it. I think that, lesson for a lot of us, and just how to get through that. But the sub part is do you get through that? And, is it still something that you actually think about a lot?
Yeah, thanks, Marty. Look, it was an incredibly tough time, and like my family, the family suffer more than anyone, and it's not just your immediate. It's not just my wife Lee and Mark, Jamie, Michaela, my kids, but it's also your extended family, your cousins, everyone that sort of has loved and supported you for a long time. It's not nice when they're reading and surrounded by opinions, and but you just got to be honest with your family. And I had to keep reassuring them, look, that it's okay. It's tough, but it's not breaking me. Let's keep reminding ourselves that it's a job that comes with this, and to try to separate the pressure on the job to the pressure on the person, and trying to make sure that I remained grounded with my family was vital. There's no doubt it hurts, Marty, and you put on, you do put on layers of armour to protect yourself. And I think one of the great emails I got at the time was amazing how many people supported me through that time. And people like Grant Dalton, and he probably didn't know it at the time, but he sent me an email and sort of support through that tough time, and he basically made a statement that I thought was really relevant, which is that, we put a lot of armour on to protect ourselves through times like this, but at the end of the day, some bullets still get through. And, I'd be lying to say it didn't hurt. But the big thing for me is to make sure that I had to try to make sure that it didn't affect the team. And because your job as a coach is when things are flying around, you've got to take them on the chin, and you actually have to take them yourself. You can't keep deflecting it onto the team. And I needed to create a space for the team to try to dig itself out of this. And so that's effectively what happened. Did it hurt personally? Yes, it did. The media criticism and all that, I actually, that wasn't the part that really got to me, because that's part of the job. But it was probably, I guess, what appeared to be a little bit of an indecision and lack of support from the organisation was probably the part that was the hardest to deal with the most.
Ian, what about the perception, or what you think is the perception of you? Are you happy with that? And are you happy, that Scott Robertson just seems to have had a hell of a lot of a different ride in terms of becoming All Black coach, lost 4 games in the first year, and then a lot of talk around the time, if that was Ian Foster, you would have copped it big time if that was the case. And so the way that he's treated compared to you.
No, look, everyone, the answer is no. To me, it is, everyone's got their own journey, and you can't walk in someone else's footsteps. Everyone will get judged differently, and in some ways, I hope some of the public or media have actually learned a little bit from my period about how to, maybe it almost felt like at some stage that some people felt like they'd gone too far with me, in terms of the criticism. And so hopefully people will get a little bit more reasonable. But look, it is what it is. I mean, I was really proud of what we achieved. I know it didn't tick a lot of boxes for some people, but, the book was really, and like those starting words, Marty, about I didn't intend to write a book. Yeah. Well, I know that I wouldn't have been the most popular All Black coach, but it didn't change the fact that I felt there's a really interesting story of those 4 years that's quite unique in All Black history. And that's why I wanted to say it, just to explain it to people, because there's some players and management in there who went through the same trip that I did. And I knew how hard they were working, how much it means to play for this team that they love. And I love the story. And so I don't begrudge anything that's happening to anyone else. It was just my journey, my pathway, and And, you know, my job's not to try to convince people to judge one way or other, but I did want the opportunity to say, well, this is what I think.
This is the DSPN.